Boom! Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. What was all that about? I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag moves closer to a new bumper deal at Manchester United. He's not the only one as well. Hannibal Mabry about to get a new contract at United. Also, the PFA, the Players Football Association, represent players in this country, in the UK, have warned Manchester United about their treatment of Jadon Sancho as that story rolls on as well. Plus, we've got some fascinating insight I want to bring you in relation to hard work in this Man United side that is not only standing out at Man United, but is standing out across the league as well. Lots to get into on the show tonight, of course, and we're going to be starting off with that huge news that Man United are very close to announcing a new deal for Erik ten Hag. And what does that do to the haters? It makes them cry into their dinner. That's what it does. But we'll talk about that in a moment because, first of all, we're sponsored by Manscaped on the show. We love Manscaped, don't we? Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. The balls will thank you. But it's not just about that with Manscaped. They've got this big beauty out now. It's called the hedge trimmer, the beard trimmer. Ow, bloody hell, nearly did it. You don't do it without it being on. It's bloody good. Very powerful. Very, very powerful indeed. It's got 10 different lengths that you can go for. Really quick as well. The quickest beard trimmer I've ever had. It's so good. Right in fitting with the quality that you get from Manscaped. You can get 40%, not 20, 40%. I've got that completely wrong. Sorry, not 40%. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TUS. They've also got the lawnmower for down there. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Figure it out. Basically, you trim it around there and it makes it look bigger. That's just basically what it is. It's not magic. They've got the weed whacker for your nose as well and this for your face. It's complete and utter treble winning male grooming. 3 areas that we all need to be looking at and grooming. Manscaped, delivered to your door, 20% off. The code is TUS. Fantastic products. Big shout out to Manscaped. Right, let's get into the show. Welcome everybody this evening. We're a little bit early tonight, not 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Back at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. 7 o'clock tonight because I am doing the Carabao Cup watch-alongs on That's Football. We've got Chelsea, Brighton and Newcastle, Man City. A double watch-along over there at 8. But before I get into all of that later on, we're here to talk about Manchester United. And we're here to talk about some very big news that I think in a different scenario would be huge news. And in fact, so big news. I almost, I just want to do a big poll. Do a poll here. Should Ten Hag be getting a contract so early? That's what I want to put to you. Because some might say it's a little bit early to give him a new contract. He's only been here a year. Why should we do that? That doesn't mean you're anti-Ten Hag, by the way. That just means, are United handing this contract out a little bit too early? Because I think that's not a bad look. But his contract is only 3 years. They've got to do something in the next 12 months because you can't have a manager going into their last year. Personally, I'm over the moon. I'm a massive fan of Ten Hag. If they want to give him a 6-year deal, I don't care. I think I'll never. There's 2 deals that I absolutely and there's a few more, but there's 2 deals at Man United that just make me speechless. And they both they both involve Scotland. They let him speak, Simon. I've played the game. Scooby Doo. They both involved Scotland. Rejecting £30 million for Scott McTominay. I can't believe it. I knew it was bad at the time, but now rejecting £30 million for Scott McTominay, who is probably our 7th choice midfielder. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. As I said before, it's like your dog doing a turd on the grass and someone pulling up in a BMW and saying, I'll give you £1 million for that poo. Don't put it in the dog bin. And you go, no, I'm keeping that bag of poo. It's my dog. It's my poo. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. The second one was replacing David Moyes with Sir Alex. I mean, I wish we'd been doing United Stand at the time. I was going absolutely mad to my mates. I was messaging them saying, I don't want Moyes, I don't want Moyes. My mate was going, give him a chance. He's done a good job at Everton. I said, it's a bloody nightmare waiting to happen. You may as well call it Freddy Krueger 6. It's terrible. And we gave him a 6-year deal. We gave David Moyes a 6-year manager deal. Unbelievable. Anyway, I digress, as I always do. But I don't care if we give Erik ten Hag a 6-year deal. I love it. I embrace it. I hug it. I don't make love to it. That's too far. But I'd be very, very happy with it. I'd be over the moon with it. But I do understand that some people think it might be a little bit too soon. But I think he only got a 3-year contract. And I think he's done a great job. I really do. I think there's been some difficult decisions and I've not always agreed with all of them. But that's what management is. Trust me, when you get to my age, in your late 30s, you do spend a lot, unless you're unemployed and you've never had a job, you do spend a lot of time around management and you see different management styles, not only in your personal life, but, in football and all sorts. And I feel that Erik ten Hag is a really good manager because I don't always agree with everything he does, but that's the whole point. If you're going to respect somebody, you don't just respect somebody because you love everything that they do. Oh, Eric, you've done a Trump and it stinks. Oh, lovely. Let me breathe it in. Can you bottle it up as aftershave? No. Sometimes, people you respect do things you disagree with. And I think Ten Hag has done things I disagree with, but I think he's the right manager for Manchester United. And I personally would be giving him a massive new contract, yes. I think it's probably one of the few good decisions that Richard Arnold and the Glazers will have made when they hand that contract to him. Because, look, what I would say is it's a bit like the shirt sponsor, isn't it? Why are the Glazers handing out a new contract to a manager if we're about to get taken over? Because if you're inheriting that football club, you might be like, well, I want to make that decision. To be honest with you, I don't think the new owners particularly care, and I don't think they'd be looking to replace Ten Hag anyway. But I think giving him a new contract is a big statement. And what it is a big statement to, and this is what I was trying to say on Friday, is that for all the trouble at the club around Anthony, Greenwood, Sancho, Ronaldo last year, the bad start to the season, the bad transfer window, in my opinion, the debt, the Glazer sale, all the trouble we have at Man United, they are very consistent around Erik ten Hag in the sense that there isn't really any dissent around him. It's just paper driven. It's just media driven. There really isn't. And I know Murta and Arnold and the Glazers get a lot of stick and a lot of it is justified. And trust me, a lot of you probably want to hold the stick. But the point is, on Ten Hag, they really aren't looking to get rid of him, and they're really not listening to him, and they're really not undermining him, and they're really not stabbing him in the back, and they're really not listening to players behind his back. That's just not going on with this manager. Yes, he should have a new contract, and we should smother it in every journalist's face and post it all over the walls at Talk Sport, says Nick. Well, I was going to talk about that, Nick, because that's what I find. It's not the most satisfying thing, but that's what I do find interesting, is that the media have tried to try. They've tried to, over the last few weeks, demean and muddy Ten Hag's reputation and name. There has been a concerted effort by certain journalists and pundits and outlets to undermine our manager. And the only reason they do that is because it's Manchester United and they want to build a story that will give them more. And they know that it takes, weeks, months to get rid of a manager. So if you can start that ball rolling, look, I don't want to be cynical here, but there's a lot of airspace and there's a lot of clicks on their articles if there's a lot of Ten Hag needs to go sort of stuff. And I think we've seen that over the last few weeks. But as I say, the great thing is the fans have resisted it. They've actually bitten back at it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear dressing room leaks. We don't want to hear Ten Hag isn't a good coach. We don't want to hear it's the beginning of the end. And therefore, they've never really got any steam going. But that is massively helped by the fact that we're about to give him a new contract as well. His position is not in scrutiny or under scrutiny. It's not under anything because he's in a very, very strong position where the coaches, players and club respect and like him, and the fan base certainly does as well. So if there is one positive about Manchester United at the moment is that the manager retains a lot of support in key areas: fan base, dressing room, and of course owners. That's very important for the security of a manager. But Mark, we did this with Ollie. Why can't we wait? What is the difference? Says Prithvi. No, I think the difference with Ollie. The difference with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was that he came in as an interim coach in the December, and we were all singing Ollie's at the wheel from February, and Ed Woodward, I think he used to sneak out into the crowd outside Old Trafford and start singing Ollie's at the wheel, and he handed a contract to a manager he never should have given a contract to. Look, we're fans, we're allowed to make mistakes, but you don't give an interim manager a contract in March when you've qualified for nothing. And what happened in March? We gave him the contract and we didn't qualify for Champions League. And it went downhill from there. Ten Hag has qualified us for the Champions League and he's won us a trophy, so it's completely different. If we base all our opinion in the UK press and Simon Jordan, etc., we'd be imprisoned already. Thank God Simon and others are irrelevant and we all trust in Erik ten Hag, says Mario Franco. Yes, well look, it's good news. And also, just to bring in here as well, that and it sort of adds to the strength of Erik ten Hag's situation. You may have seen it this afternoon being reported by Rob Dawson in the ESPN. The PFA, which is the organisation that represents footballers in the UK, they're a very, very footballer orientated organisation. You know, they're not here to represent fans. They're not here to represent clubs. They're here to represent players. That is what they are there to do. Sometimes you agree with what they do. Sometimes you don't. But they will represent a player on strike. They will represent a player, you know, who wants to leave their club. They were representing Ronaldo last year in his situation at United. Well, of course, they're representing Jadon Sancho. And apparently they've stressed and warned Manchester United that they are required to provide an adequate standard of training for Jadon Sancho. But the club have bitten back and they believe that they have fully respected this player by assigning specialist coaches to work with him. Erik ten Hag has the full support of the club regarding Jadon Sancho, including the CEO, the owners and the director of football, and that the legal implications have been considered. Manchester United are confident they have not broken any rules following their decision to have Jadon Sancho train alone and will continue to await an apology from him. So a very strong reaction from Manchester United in a situation that I think we're all bored of, but a situation that is going to roll on. I think this was inevitable, that effectively you do get the legal people involved. Manchester United should have the right to suspend and discipline a player that is acting out of the spirit of his contract, and I think that's what United are doing. But obviously Jadon Sancho will be represented by numerous people, not only those people that represent him, but the players, the PFA, and there are clearly some reservations from them that he's being treated unfairly and not being given the training facilities that he needs. This is this sort of thing reminds me of when I used to work in certain organisations, and actually when you're dealing with underperforming people, the amount of rights that they have and the amount of hoops you have to jump through in, you know, whether you want to sack someone from McDonald's or you want to sack them from a bank, there are certain things that you have to do to maintain their rights as a worker. So obviously this has come out, but Man United are doing that. And what does it mean? It means that Jadon Sancho, if he's going to not train and not eat with the first team, then he must be provided with, you know, coaching which matches that of the first team. He must be provided with food and facilities that match that of the first team. So all those things will be standard practice that Manchester United will be fully aware of. But, you know, the overarching thing is United are doing it. He's been given specialist coaches to training him on his own. He'll have been given facilities and a shower and food to eat and shower, etc. He'll be given his car parking space. But he's isolated from the first team until he apologises. I mean, I don't see a problem with it, and I don't know why the PFA would see a problem with it, and I don't think Jadon Sancho should see a problem with it. I mean, when you look at it logically, what do you think's going to happen? Oh, come back and train with us and come back and get involved, even though you won't apologise for what you did. So look, apologise, get on with it. It's been going on for too long now. Mark, on Ten Hag, people forget that everyone in Europe wanted him. Look at Ajax, now they are a shadow of themselves. He's doing a fantastic job for us, says Tony Martial. Look. As I say, that's why I mentioned the latest on Sancho. I mean, I find it very, very boring at this point. Just apologise and we can all move on. But it just shows the club are firmly behind him. And there's a very strong message going out here as well, which we shouldn't lose sight of. And that is that players themselves will see how Erik ten Hag has reacted to the Jadon Sancho situation. And I tell you what, if you're in that dressing room now, we saw Rashford. What people forget about here is and it's really important to reiterate, is that obviously the now deleted social media post from Jadon Sancho mentioned favouritism. And yet one player that really symbolises favourites, I think the one player that is a favourite more than anybody else at Man United under Ten Hag is Rashford. I think if we had a vote, it would be Rashford. And yet, favourite Rashford was dropped against Wolves for being late. He was dropped from a game that we needed to win away from home, and he dropped him for being late. And that's the contradictory nature of this, is that sometimes the modern media doesn't want to go further than their nose to research. And the hard fact is, arguably Ten Hag's most favourite player was dropped for being late. The message went out last season. So I think the message will go through that squad very, very firmly. And I would imagine it's already there. You take the piss out of Erik Ten Hag and you're going to find yourself isolated very, very quickly, because the club actually on this are behaving absolutely correctly in the fact that the manager must be allowed to manage. I don't think Mourinho was allowed to manage. I don't think Van Gaal was allowed to manage. I don't think Ole knew how to manage, but I don't think he would have been backed anyway. So, yeah, I think it's a real positive. I just want to move the conversation a little bit, because this fascinated me today. I was really impressed with this. So Sky Sports put out some stats. Really hard to get hold of this data, and I'm massively interested in it. You know, sprints, pressure, distance covered, etc. Hannibal and Rasmus are really interesting. So the players pressing the most in the Premier League this season average per 90. Number one, Hannibal this season. I mean, he's only played one Premier League game, I would say that. But he is top of the league in relation to pressures per 90 this season. A massive amount of pressures against Burnley. A real, fantastic performance in relation to distance covered and running around. Obviously, you want more than running around. I mean, look, yeah, we do. But look, the second player in that list, and this is across the Premier League, is Rasmus Højlund. Is second for pressures per 90 in the Premier League. And that, I think that's massively encouraging. And it's something I wanted to throw out there, because it's it shows that players are working hard in that team, and it shows that players are working hard for Ten Hag, and I think that is just so important. But in addition to that, sprinting pressures per 90, Hannibal was number one in that, ahead of Tavernier, Son, Anthony Gordon and Odegaard. Again, I must just say, Hannibal Mabry has only played one Premier League game, and I actually don't agree that one Premier League game is a fair evidence pool to compare yourself to someone like Son, who's probably played 5 or 6. But it's really interesting that, you know, we have got players like Hannibal and Højlund, both very young players, putting a shift in for the team at a time where we really need it. And that leads into the second thing I was going to talk about, which is the prospect of Hannibal getting a new contract. We've mentioned that, I think, yesterday. And he is very close to signing a new contract with Manchester United as well. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Mabry. I'm yet to be convinced that he is on the level of a Garnacho, who I think has got a really big future at Man United. I think with Mabry, I'm sort of like, is he going to be a McTominay or is he going to be a Rashford? And what I mean is, he's got nothing in similarity to those style of players, but Scott McTominay, you know, was he ever really good enough? Bench player. Marcus Rashford, first team player, very important. And it's going to be really interesting what happens with Hannibal, because I wasn't convinced in the summer. I really wasn't convinced in the summer that he was going to be part of the plan. And I know a lot of Birmingham fans, and they said about him, talented player, but it's hard to tell what he's going to be. And I think this season's really important for him. And if Erik Ten Hag wants to give him a contract, I think he really does believe in him. Rory says, the important thing, though, is that the pressing is pointless for the most part if not done as a unit. We need everyone working as hard, says Rory. Completely agree on that. And it's fantastic to see how hungry Rasmus is, says Winter Rose. And McTominay tops the bunny jump stats in the Premier League, says Gareth Southgate. And Marvin says he's basically another replacement for McTominay. I think Mabry sort of splits opinion, doesn't he? 63% of you said Ten Hag should be getting a contract. 37% of you say no. So it's quite high saying no, isn't it? But yeah, I think with Mabry he splits opinion. You know what my stance is always with the younger players is that we have to be patient. You have to give them time. Look at Gore. I think he's another one. Mainu is going to be back soon. This season's quite interesting actually and exciting because we've got quite a few in and around the team. Abdullah says, did you hear about the Victor Osimhen situation? Could United get him on the winter window with the Qatari takeover? What's your thoughts, says Abdullah. Look, I like Victor Osimhen. Would I sign him at Manchester United? Well, I would have signed Harry Kane and Højlund. So, of course, I'd sign Osimhen and Højlund. I think we need another striker. I don't think we can completely rely on Martial because of his injury issues. And I'd love to see Victor Osimhen at Manchester United. I've got to be honest, a lot of people have said to me, what do you think about the treatment of Napoli and Osimhen? I need to look at this. I've seen them, but I haven't seen the audio, and I don't really get the context, and I don't really understand. And that's just, I haven't really had time to read or look at them properly. I saw something about a coconut, and I saw something about a penalty, and I don't really understand it. Is it racist? Is it just taking the piss? I genuinely haven't read it or watched it enough to know what it is. But I find it incredible that, and the big question for me is why? Why? Like, there is no way, whatever you think about Man United's social media team, they wouldn't take the piss out of a Marcus Rashford or a Bruno Fernandes. So I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they're doing it. And I think it's been deleted now, Nigel, but somebody will have it. But I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And whether it's a joke and whether people see it as banter or whether people say it as serious, the fact that the player himself is talking about legal action and stuff, it's just stupid. Dark says, I think it was racially motivated. Abhishek says, is it not just a joke? I don't know. I don't know what it's all about. But you're right. You make a good point. If he's going to go, he'll go in January. And if he's going to go in look, my big fear with Osimhen is I think Chelsea are one top striker away from being a good team. And I think I was surprised Chelsea didn't go for him in the summer. So I think he'll end up at Chelsea, and I think he'll be very, very good in the Premier League. But as for Manchester United, Ten Hag does like Osimhen, and he looked at him the summer before last. But we haven't, and we will not buy him unless we have Qatar in charge, because we just don't have the financial power to do it. I mean, I mentioned it this morning about Amrabat, and Liverpool could have just bought him, and they ended up with Gravenberg. And Amrabat himself said, "Look, there were a lot of clubs interested in me and a lot of discussions, but for me, it was clear I wanted Man United." Look, I know that. I've heard Joe Cole when he signed for Man United, he was told to say that Man United wanted him and he chose Liverpool. I don't really listen to those sort of things because you can't take the piss out of Liverpool players doing it and say that it's true when United players do it. I think it's almost, lesson one with a new signing. Loads of clubs wanted me, but I chose this club. So I don't necessarily believe in all that. We didn't even have enough money to buy Amrabat. He's on loan. So I want to see United in a financial situation where they can start to be able to buy players such as Osimhen. But I think the chances of us signing Osimhen at the moment would be next to nothing, next to none, next to zero, because we just don't have the money. That's what I keep telling people, Mark, that United aren't going anywhere until ownership changes. Carabao and FA Cup hopes at best under the Glazers, says Mo. Yeah, and a few people in the chat saying they'd rather go for Ivan Toney. Again, it's not really a conversation we'll be in. I don't want to, piss on people's cornflakes, but regards to January transfer window, no, nothing will happen. There will be no signings in the January transfer window. We will be in the same situation as last year. There is no money. Our last transfer action in the summer transfer window was scraping together a few million to do a loan deal for a player that we wanted to buy for 25. So what's going to change between the end of August and the start of January? Nothing. There is no money. We can't afford to buy anyone in January. So we're going to be in a situation where we go with what we got until we sort the sale out. And as soon as the sale is sorted out, depending on who buys the club, we'll be in a very different situation. If Qatar bought us, and we must always remind ourselves like this, if Qatar bought us, that $500 million of debt, gone. And when that debt's gone, you can do things that will create money. And but we're not in that position yet. And I don't know when we will be in that position. I would say that as depressing as it is, how quickly could you get a new owner in to have an impact on the January transfer window? Probably can't be done. Andy Weatherall, thank you for gifting a membership. Ivan Toney is good, but he's a bit of a gamble, says Jay. Yeah, so even if we were sold now, October, November, December, I don't think we're going to get a sale in by January. I think we need to be realistic. A lot of people were saying we can still sell the club in May and get signings in the summer transfer window. Never happened. I would say that this whole season is a Glazer season now. I would say that the January transfer window, we won't do anything. This is what we've got. Even if we are sold, you're talking about next summer, which means we've lost a year, really. The Glazers have lost us a year. And people will say, well, what about selling McTominay? What about selling Maguire? I don't think either of those players go in January. I really don't think there'll be any clubs willing to spend £30 million on those types of players in January. I don't think they will. If I'm being completely honest, I might be wrong, but I don't think they will. I really don't. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to go with what we've got this season, which means and I think we've got a lot. I do think we've got a lot, but I think we need to be better with injuries. I think that's going to be the big thing. I think I agree with Solid Blake. I think Donny could go in January because he probably goes on a loan or a free. Maybe McTominay goes on a loan if we've got enough midfield options. I don't think Maguire will go in January. In what position do we need someone, and then who? Says Jope. I don't actually think Man United need anything urgently now. I think that what Ten Hag wanted in the summer was probably another striker, another midfielder, and another centre-back. But I don't think they're things he'll look to sell in January. I don't think he's going to get the centre-back he wants in January. I think the centre-back he wants was Kim Min-jae. So it shows you the quality of centre-back he wants. You're not going to get that in January. I think he'd like another experienced striker. Very unlikely that would happen in January. I don't think United will do anything in January. I really don't. I don't think we'll have the money, and I don't think the players that Ten Hag will want will be available. We are, a lot of people are saying in the chat there, we are desperate for a centre-back. I completely agree. I completely agree that we are. But I think that there are a number of centre-backs this season that it would be worthwhile just waiting and seeing what happens with them across the season. You might be pleasantly surprised on that one. Tadibo from Nice probably happens if we get to Jim. I say that. Evans and Magaluf at the back. The thing is, Maguire and Evans at the back yesterday, as much as they have their cult fan clubs, and as much as I like Johnny Evans, that Mateta's crap, and he still managed to take a touch and get a shot off with both of them. But it's their speed. That's the problem. If you could add a speed pack to Johnny Evans or Harry Maguire, probably be all right. But it's just their lack of speed in certain situations in the way that we want to play. We want to go 1-for-1 with our defence because we want our fullbacks to push forward. So we want to go 1-for-1 with our centre-backs, which Varane's comfortable doing, Martinez is comfortable doing, Lindelof gets by. But Maguire and Evans, in a 1v1 situation, they just don't have that recovery pace or agility. And I think that's what Ten Hag will be looking at next summer. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm going over to That's Football. We're starting at 7:45. Man City are at Newcastle and Chelsea are at home to Brighton. So we're going to lose two decent teams tonight in the Carabao Cup, which is great. Could be another trophy for Man United. Ideally, Newcastle knock Man City out. And ideally, Chelsea knock Brighton out. I'd like to see that happen just to help us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please do download the podcast. Links in the live chat. Some big things going on with the podcast at the moment. Goldbridge Saves Football. Huge thing happening on Friday. So make sure you download it and keep yourself up to date with that. It's available on Spotify and iTunes. Download it, give it a listen. And don't forget Manscaped. 20% off, free worldwide shipping. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger and get yourself the best beard trimmer in the world. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you over on That's Football in about 10 minutes. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.